We're live. Hello, everyone. Hi, Kathleen.
Hello, Macy. Hello, everyone.
I'm so excited to have a conversation with you about your work. My name is Macy, and I am the founder of Big Happy Love and the I Am Super Loved system, which helps single women create meaningful love. And a lot of that comes with healing our past and being able to create something greater, a phenomenal love relationship in the future. And ever since I met you, Kathleen, I've been so fascinated with your story. And I just want to share with everyone your bio. So I'm just going to read that really quick so people can get to know you. And if you're joining, please say hello in the comments. Seeing a lot of people joining, you can click the little dooley above and it'll show your name. Otherwise, just comment and tell us who you are. So Kathleen L. is a #1 international best-selling author, transformational speaker, intuitive success coach, and a certified healer. Kathleen teaches how to revolutionize living through emotional, spiritual, and energetic processing, clearing anything from deep trauma to habits of behavior, and bring swift and permanent change for her clients. Her life's work drastically was refocused in March 2010 after her teenage son died by suicide. She became a certified success coach, a certified RIM emotional processing facilitator, an energy healer, and embraced her intuitive gifts. Kathleen's life purpose is to educate, inspire, and empower those who lost loved ones suddenly and unexpectedly, and people who are living with limiting beliefs, blocks, and stuck emotions that prevent from success. And I remember first hearing your story, Kathleen, and it's one of those things that, your heart just completely drops. I couldn't imagine what that must have been like for you. And having known you for a while now, I would love to hear more about your journey with this grief process. Will you share more about that?
Absolutely, I will. Thank you so much, Macy. I really wanted to first say I loved Macy from the second that I saw her. And actually, I was a little scared of her the first time I saw her. I was like, ooh, she looks like she could be mean. But the first time I saw her, I was like, oh my God. Once I had a conversation with her, I'm like, I love her. I can't wait to get to know her. And now she's just an amazing part of my life. So thank you for having me, Macy.
Sure.
My journey has felt like I was in the quicksand at times, like a lot of times in the quicksand and the muck of like a swamp and in the pond, the dirty pond water. I'm trying to give you a visual of like what the journey's been like. It's gone from truly quicksand that every movement I made, I felt like I was dropping deeper and deeper and that I couldn't breathe. I couldn't function with a weight on my back. That was at the very beginning of Logan's suicide. And it's been a journey of ultimately feeling like I can almost walk on water. And I know that I'm not God or Jesus or anybody else. And I know I can't walk on water, or maybe I can, who knows? But, the beginning, I really felt like I wanted to die with Logan. And I mean, many of my watchers, viewers know that. I say it often, as I was laying on his grave and I just was like begging and pleading and saying, please just take me to whoever, whatever took my son, take me to. I could not function. And this is all in my book called Shattered Together that's coming out in September. However, at that moment, that one moment, my body became still and it just became calm and I'd stopped crying. And I heard out of nowhere from above, if this happened in your life, then you're meant to do something with it. So go do it. And at the time, I had been a legislator and a government official, and I'd owned my own businesses, and I was working for the largest commercial construction association in the state of Vermont at this time as a CEO and lobbyist. So I had the contacts and the media. I had the ability to actually reach out and make a difference. So it was at that moment that I decided that it was time for me to respond differently than how I was responding, because I was dying with Logan and I could not honor him the way I was in, how much pain and grief I was in. And so that started to shift my direction. And it was then that I started to educate people about suicide and the language around suicide, and how it's really an illness, not to describe suicide as a crime. You know, people talk about suicide as committing suicide.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a crime, it's a mental illness, and educating people about that. And from that point until now, it's a long journey. It's been a very long journey, but I really invested in my healing from cognitive thought therapy to post-traumatic stress therapy to energy healing and you know, all the meditations and writings, and there's just all kinds of tools and techniques that I use, and that's why the book is coming out. And what I've realized from that healing process is that what I was seeking externally for all the years I was seeking, you know, like churches and marriages and relationships, and you know, I was seeking external acceptance and love, and you know, the drive for why I became a legislator and all the success, the so-called success in life. I realized that I was seeking externally what I was really seeking internally, and that was self-love and acceptance and appreciation. And so I found the light within me by moving through my healing process with RIM and with other energy modalities. So it's been a long journey. It's sometimes I feel like sometimes I felt like I was drowning and that it was a tsunami and I wasn't surviving. And other times I felt, okay, then I can swim and I can make it through this. And I realize now life is a healing journey. If in fact you are willing to take 1 hour at a time and just hour by hour continue to invest in your healing, because that's the process. It can be a journey of pain or it can be a healing journey. That's really what life is about. It's a journey.
Yeah. I love how you use this metaphor of having been in the mud and then like getting to where you almost feel like you can walk on water in having received all of the healing. I'm curious to know, in the process, like, how do people, are there actual steps that everyone goes through with grief? And is it, you know, do you feel like because of the tools that you had, you were able to do it easier? Or what is the truth about it all?
The truth is everyone grieves differently, and grief is in your terms, not in anyone else's terms. So while society gives you 3 days off so you can grieve and go back to work, that's not even close to being true at all. Whether they give you 3 days or 3 months, there is a longer journey in your life than that, you know, and so grief is really personalized. And it's important that you try different things. And so for me, I have a whole, you know, back end of a truck full of toolkits, a toolkit of multiple modalities and different things that I tried because I was committed that I was not giving up. I made a promise to myself and to Logan that if it happened in my life, then I was meant to do something with it. So I promised that I would not quit. Mm-hmm. So I had to deal with the pain. And so that's the key for all grief, is that avoiding it, masking it, pretending it's not there, doesn't work. You have to move through it, and you don't get over it. You don't forget it. You move through it. And what I found that I believe would make it easier for everyone is actually working with the energy healing modalities. And incorporate that with some of the daily practices that I do. And so some of those tools are, just writing. And at the very beginning, I have a program coming up. I'm doing one with Jean Chirico. It's called From Grief to Belief, Stepping Stones from Grief to Belief. And it's an 8-week program for those who have gone through sudden and unexpected grief, or loss, sudden and unexpected loss. And at the very beginning, it's just knowing that you're not crazy, knowing that it's just about breathing, giving you just basic survival skills, because that's what it's about, is survival.
Yeah, I imagine there is a lot with presence in this, like being able to be with yourself and listen and ask for help and receive help. I mean, there's so many different things that I can imagine that come along with it. And I want to also say, I'd love to have you share more about your program coming up at the end, so that if people have experienced sudden loss recently, because I know there are some people out there, I mean, there's thousands right now, right? So that they could get in touch with you. But tell us about, is your book actually something where people who have experienced sudden loss could take it and then use it almost as a guidebook to have some of the awareness and tools to support them in not feeling crazy or wrong or whatever it is that comes up?
I'm so excited about this book. Like, I have not come across, and I'm not saying there's not a book out there, but I have not come across a book that is 10 years out from the time someone's transitioned suddenly and unexpectedly, that goes back from the perspective of, I am really living a purpose-filled life that's full of joy and forgiveness and compassion and love. And as I go back, I review the tools and resources that I've used throughout the 10 years and provide tools. After each chapter, there's a tool that you can use. And so what's beautiful about the book is that you can open it up midstream and start there. You can start the very beginning and read it all the way through. You can look at the chapters and say, which one's calling me, and go to that chapter. So it's not one right after the other, because it's not linear. Grief is not linear. Like the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of grief, or 6 stages of grief, excuse me. It's not linear. There's anger, there's guilt, there's shame, it's all the above, and sometimes it's together and sometimes it's one at a time. And so that's what my book does. It's like, it kind of ebbs and flows, and wherever you are in the moment that you're in, open up the book and look at the chapters and see what's calling you, and go to that chapter and read there, because at the end there's a little personal story. There's, throughout the entire book, it's about the transition of Logan, the suicide and the pain that's connected to that. But sudden and unexpected loss is much broader than only suicide. There's drug overdoses, car accidents, heart attacks, suicide. There's deaths of loved ones in COVID when you can't see them. And then go beyond that. There's divorces, loss of jobs, health diagnosis, the list of sexual assault. There's what was before is no longer ever going to be the same from that point forward.
Right. And would you say that's what that is? Grief. Like when something that is no longer able to be that again, or available.
The way I would describe it, I don't even know that I'd say grief, like it is grief, and you do move through grief, and it is about working with what's in you. Sometimes people don't even realize they're carrying grief in their body. Like they could have experienced something as a child that they think that doesn't affect them anymore, and they're making decisions every single day based on that particular event that happened as a child. And they don't know why they're continuing to repeat the patterns. So it's really about shifting patterns, breaking patterns, moving through layers of pain, and healing trauma. And so, what was your question, Macy?
Oh no, that was it. I love that, because I mean, you were talking about how just the pain of something being lost, the divorce, like big job loss, like all beyond death too. And then as you were talking about this, the childhood trauma that can happen, that you be aware of that grief that's in your body, and how we work with that. And so I do want to share that, you and I both share in that we both are using a modality called regenerating images and memory, by Dr. Deb Sandella, and we're both certified practitioners of that. And just when you mentioned that, like how that process is such a powerful tool, specifically with those kinds of situations, going back to a trauma, and whether it's known or unknown.
Right.
And oftentimes it's unknown that
it's
influences all of our decisions.
Well, very often, as you know this, Macy, is like, I get so excited about this. Like very often our response to a trauma or a loss or a tragedy of any sort, our response is based on what we were taught as a younger being, as what we were programmed. We weren't even taught it. We were programmed, unconsciously programmed. Like my parents didn't consciously program me the way I was thinking. It's the events that occur create a program in our minds, and that's how we respond the rest of our lives. And I have to say that RIM, Regenerating Images of Memory, and Macy is an amazing practitioner for it, so I would definitely use her for me. But she's just amazing with what she does. But I have to tell you that there's two modalities that have been the absolute best modalities for me. And had I known them at the beginning of my grief, I think it would have taken me a shorter period of time for me to move through the most painful pieces of that. And that is regenerating images and memory. And when I did the ayahuasca ceremonies in Costa Rica, those were the two. And then the energy, like channeling energy for myself now and being intuitively, I'm going to say, using my intuitive gifts. I don't like to say gifted, but using my intuitive gifts. Oh, Charlie's struck.
Hi, Kitty.
Yeah. That energy healing is I think the key for me.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, hi, Sarah. Sarah says, hi, Macy, Kathleen. So grateful for both of you. My RIM sessions with Macy was something or another. So awesome. Glad you're listening. So I'm curious about a lot of you coming from politics, because you were in the political arena for so long. And I love how you saw that opportunity to leverage your experience there to actually create change in the world, having known that inner workings of that and being able to, bring messages to the communities. What about your intuitive ability? Do you attribute this traumatic event with your son as opening up those gifts, or were you always aware of those before?
So interesting, Macy. As I look back now, it's a great question. It's a really great question. As I look back now, I think, oh my gosh, I was totally using my intuitive gifts when I was a legislator and when I was, as a teenager and, earlier on in my life, I was totally using those intuitive gifts and I didn't even know it. But what did open me up is actually moving through the layers of shame and self-doubt and unworthiness and just like really sabotage that I did a lot of my life up until 3 years ago. Up until probably, that's not true. Up until Logan transitioned, I probably didn't realize I was self-sabotaging like I was. And it also benefited me in many, many ways. So I don't see my life prior to Logan being negative. I see that as like, oh my gosh, as I look back, these are all stepping stones where the divine was preparing me to do what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm. I
Like,
love that.
had I not been a legislator, had I not experienced the things I did as a toddler, had I not gone through everything that I'd gone through in my life, I would not have been able to be a legislator, the compassionate legislator that I was. And then had not have been able to really use the tools that I've used now to help others in such a broad capacity. Like it's just, I'm feeling so grateful that
Yeah.
everything that I've experienced is exactly what I needed to experience in order for me to be able to serve the way I serve today.
Yeah, I really love that. And it is interesting. You and I have been working with Jen Gottlieb and Chris Winfield this
Yeah.
last week. And I love the quote that they shared about you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back. Can't remember who they quoted for that, but whatever. It's generally that idea. And when you're looking back, you can see how one thing led to another and how that kind of moved us to awakening into different things. And I really feel like when we can be present with knowing that the universe is on our side and not like these kinds of experiences that you're talking about are easy. Obviously, they're not, but it is quite magical when you can see the dots connected. And I really want to hear more about how you actually now relate to the other side, because as Logan is now on the other side, what have you learned about that you didn't know before this?
Yeah. Again, you're just amazing with intuitively picking up on what needs to be said. It's just like, what I believed before Logan's transition was that we actually died, and I knew there was I always knew there was something more, but I didn't know what it was. Like even as a young child, I said, "There's got to be something more than what I'm experiencing." And I knew throughout my lifetime that there was more. I used oracle cards and other things, but with Logan's transition, it really opened me up to how much energy is all around us. Like energy, what truly dies is the human body. The human body dies, and the soul and the spirit that's carried within there is set free. And I'm not saying people should go out and just set your soul free. I'm just like it's set free. And if we are connected enough to ourselves, we will be connected to that energy around us. So we can feel our energy. There's science behind all of this that shows that energy is just that we're all energy. It's just how much are we willing to just be silent and be present with that energy. And so since Logan's transition, I have sign after sign after sign that he is there with me, that he is guiding me, and that he's really my partner in what I do. I can just go on forever for the signs that he gives me.
I want some signs. Will you share some signs? One of my favorites was in the book about your cat. I mean, I do kind of want to hear that one again and any others.
Yeah, sure. So I'll share one quick one, and then we can go to the cat one. It's like, one day I was just driving down the road and just saying, Logan, I miss you. I was crying. I miss you. I love you. Please show me that you're here with me. And literally out of nowhere in the sky, a heart-shaped cloud with his initials LV beside it. Not just a heart, but a heart-shaped cloud with his initials LV beside it.
Cloud initials?
Yeah, cloud initials, cloud and LV with a heart there. Like you can't make that stuff up.
No, I love that one.
Yeah. And then Logan's pictures, there were 3 pictures on the wall right after Logan's service. And there was a shelf there. And Logan had a cat named Hilton, and his sister's cat name was Paris. So Paris Hilton. So they named them together. And so Hilton got up on the counter, on the shelf, and he put one paw on the wall, like he had to like stretch. He put one paw on the wall, and the other paw, he started to cry and touch the photo of Logan's face. Like he would touch Logan's face. So he knew, so his energy was there. He kept yawling. That's the first time I'd seen him do that.
Wow.
Another time I was in Logan's room playing cribbage on his phone, on my phone. I was laying on Logan's bed, and that was, that was early on. And I needed to be close with him. And that's where I went. And I can feel my heart hurt. And see, you can easily go back to the very beginning, even though I feel, grateful to be where I am. You can easily slide back into the old feeling of that. And I was laying on his bed playing cribbage, and Hilton was sitting at the edge of the door. He wouldn't cross the threshold of the door. He wouldn't cross from the hardwood floor into the carpet. And he would just looked up into the air, and he kept yawling. And I'm like, come on in, Hilton. Because he was always in Logan's room. He was always on Logan's bed. It was Logan's cat,
Mm-hmm.
and he wouldn't cross the threshold. So finally I put the game away because I just got a sense like his spirit's here, like Logan's spirit's here. And I just laid there quietly and watched Hilton. And all of a sudden, Hilton flies through the air and starts yowling and puts his paws out like he's jumping, like in the air toward his spirit. And he was definitely, Logan's spirit was there. And I was like, oh my gosh. So of course I started crying, and I laid down, I rolled over onto my side and kind of in a little like a fetal position, and I was crying, and I felt Logan's spirit lay to my back and put his arm around me. Like I felt his spirit holding me. And it was just like the most beautiful gift that you could, like, I can tell you huge amount of signs all the time. Number 33 always comes up, like I know that if 33 happens to come up, then I know whatever I'm thinking about or whatever I'm doing, I need to pay closer attention to it, because 33 was Logan's basketball number, his jersey number through all of high school. Mm-hmm. So that was his number.
Wow.
It's crazy amount. Yeah.
So I'm aware of right now people out there who have had loss. Maybe it's fresh, maybe it's not. And like you said, it's going to have its own rhythm to it. What do you say to those people who have had loss but aren't getting signs, or don't know how to see them, or feeling like it's not happening? Or is there a way to feel more connected to that? Or what do you say about that?
Well, what I say is lots of times they're holding on to so much pain.
Mm-hmm.
There's just sometimes there's just so much pain that there's a fear of seeing that, or a disbelief. Like, I believe that those signs are there. It's just you're not seeing them. Like, I truly believe the signs are there. And just breathe into it. Close your eyes, breathe, and just imagine that they're there. And ask for a sign, and ask for, just say, will you show me a penny on the ground, or a feather, or just if there's something, think about something. This is it, because his song would come on the radio all the time, as well. Just naturally, I'd be thinking about it, and his song would come on the radio. It's just becoming aware, I think.
Okay.
Be aware of, it's a great question, and I'm not always sure how to answer that, because it's been there and I saw it and I believed it. So I don't know, think about something special that reminds you of him or her or your loved one. And it will be, I mean, Macy, you're intuitive. What do you think? What is your recommendation?
I love that you're saying ask. I mean, I think that's such a great thing, because I think oftentimes we forget that we can ask, and maybe it doesn't seem to make sense to ask just
Right.
energy. I love that you said that. And I love, kind of the lightness of just, giving some ideas, and also just what you're sharing about, just having an awareness of when they pop into your mind. Like you hear that song, that can be just a song, or it can be of, wow, when I hear the song, I'm connected to Logan, and how that is, you being with him in that moment. So I wonder how many times these things can occur. I mean,
And we
that's
don't,
kind of how
yeah.
I feel it. People who I've lost, if they pop into my mind, to me, it's them there. And
Right. Right. And, sometimes you might be thinking of them and a song might come on and you may not even see it. You may not even realize it because you're just so lost in the pain that you're feeling in your body and your mind and your soul. Like, I get it. I get the pain.
yeah,
And just be aware, be open to just maybe that feather that happened to drop out of nowhere when there's no birds around might be your loved one, to just
yeah,
say, I'm around. Now, I'm not saying the feather is your loved one. They're just signs of your loved one being close to you. Like, it doesn't mean like the feather's your loved one or the dragonfly's your loved one. It is the messenger that says your loved one is there. It's the energy that's saying, okay, we'll bring something close to you to let you know I'm here.
yeah. I
I
love that.
found,
It's not wrong or right. It's just being able to be present with it, and also being kind with yourself, because it sounds like there are going to be times when the pain is so strong that
yeah,
you're, crying, or it's not going to be the same all the time. Like,
right.
yeah.
I found I just like I one more story on the signs, because some people will watch this and say she's freaking crazy, and that's okay. You can say what you want, because I have signs all the time and I know it's true. But I mean, people say, oh, you find pennies all the time, or you find dimes all the time, you find whatever. I was packing up my condo and I was like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. After Logan transitioned, I was moving out. I moved.
Mhm.
And I was like, Logan, please let me know that this is the right decision. If it's the right decision, give me a sign, And literally, I went to clean the oven and there was a penny in the oven. And then I went to clean the freezer and there was a penny in the freezer. Like, the oven and freezer, you don't find pennies in the oven and freezer. And the reason why it's so significant to me is because Logan loved frozen chicken wings and he would eat them every single night he could eat them. So it was the oven and the freezer. So significant, like,
That's funny.
yeah, yeah. So the other ones are kind of like, okay, maybe you can get away with it, but how can you explain a penny in the freezer and a penny in the oven? You just can't.
Right. I love it. And it sounds like it's like, okay, well, notice what
What you
just
come
arises,
across.
like what it
Right.
connects you to, what it reminds you of, and let yourself have that. I mean, in my world, I feel like if it feels good to see a penny and then think of your loved one, let it be so. Let it be. Receive
I
it.
think
Let
it's
it
I
have
think
it.
it's about believing, right? It's about believing, like believing that your body is no longer here, but their energy is right there with you. Like, every single medium I've ever gone to, Logan has come through. Front
Right.
and center, first thing, let me talk, mommy, mommy, mommy. Like, they all say it.
Yeah.
Professional mediums. Like, so believe that your loved one loves you enough. Like, the other thing I think that I really want our viewers to know is that when someone transitions suddenly and unexpectedly, and sometimes not in the best way, Logan left a note, and again, that's in the book, but he wasn't speaking when he transitioned. And so sometimes there's rocky roads at the very end of someone's life with you, and we hold so much guilt and so much shame for our actions in it. And the reason I believe the signs are there in those, sometimes the signs are there in those particular circumstances, is for our loved ones to say that, let up on yourself. I don't blame you. I love you. I'm here with you. Let me guide you. Let me hold you.
Yeah.
It's believing that
I love
they're not
that.
holding you responsible.
Well, and it obviously, like you said, it's a journey. You didn't just come out of this with all of this wisdom. This was an experience. You had the tools, and now you're giving all this in your book, Shattered Together, when that comes out. And you're saying, doesn't that come out in September?
The end of September. Yep.
End of September. So people will be able to get that on Amazon, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And
or on my website at Cathleen.
Right. What is your website?
CATHLEENL.com.
Okay.
The
So
letter L.
Your name. Oh, the letter L. So CathleenLetterL.com. So, and then obviously anyone who's watching who hasn't friended you yet, connect with Cathleen and tell us, what are there other things that we haven't addressed or talked about that you really want people to know about regarding the grief process?
Yeah, I did talk about that. It is personal.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of things is like people are going to show up that you wouldn't expect would show up. And there are people who aren't going to show up that you would expect to show up. So be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. And this is all in my book. And I'm not trying to sell my book right now, really. I just it is there. It's a resource that really would be useful for you if you're going through any kind of challenge.
Well, you just saying that seems so helpful. Uh-oh, you froze. Hopefully you'll come back.
So did you, I'm back. Can you see me?
Are you back? Okay. So no, just you saying what you just said around people will show up who you didn't expect will show up, and people who you expected would show up won't show up. And I can see how that would be a really powerful thing to hear if someone is already feeling grief and then feeling another level of grief that they're feeling left or not supported in the right way. Oh, here's a question I do have. What do you say to people? Like when people have a loss, like how do you know what to say? Because I think sometimes that can be really sensitive. I mean, I can think of other situations where I've had situations where I'm like, why would someone say that? But I think it's really hard to know what to say. What would you say?
Well, first of all, be gentle with them, because people say things that just to say something because they're uncomfortable with the silence. Mm-hmm. They don't know what to say. So that is why people say things that are less than appropriate. I'm just going to leave it at that. Mm-hmm. The best thing that you can say is, I am so sorry for the pain that you're going through. Know that my heart is with you. What can I do for you? Mm-hmm. And lots of times they don't know. The person that's grieving do not know what you can do for them. All you can say is, I'll continue to check in with you. And mm-hmm. if you sent a text 3 weeks out, 6 weeks out, 12 weeks out, and just said, hey, I just was thinking about you, and I just wanted you to know that. Sending you my love and blessings. Just letting them know that you're thinking about them is really, really important. And the other thing, if you don't know what to do and they don't know what to do, send them a gift card to get groceries, or, go over and clean their bathroom, because that's the last thing on their mind is to clean their house. I had a friend, she was an associate, she was a lobbyist when I was a legislator, and her name's Margaret. But she I would have never expected this of her, but she just called me out of the blue, probably 6 weeks. I have no idea. The time just doesn't matter when you're in the middle of this. But she called me out of the blue and said, "I'm going to be in town. I'd love to be able to stop by. Are you going to be there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be here." Of course, sometimes you want company, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just want to isolate yourself, which is not necessarily healthy either. And she came over and she goes, "Let's just walk outside. We don't have to go far. Let's just," and I was really resistant because I didn't want to show my face. I felt such shame that I could not save my son. Like I felt such shame that I did not want to see anybody. I was a legislator. I was successful. I was a public figure. How could I not save my son? That was my thought process at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so she took me outside, and I'll never forget that because she's showed up when she didn't have to. She was an associate of mine. She wasn't a close friend of mine, but she just took me for a walk around the block, which was literally 5 minutes. Like it was a very small block, but it got me outside so I could breathe the fresh air. She showed up. So that's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Show up.
Yeah.
Show up randomly at the office,
And don't be offended if that's not going to work for that person. But I think it sounds like being available to help in whatever way, big or small, a walk, cleaning, offering food, just listening. It seems like
asking about their loved one too. Say, if you don't know their child or their loved one that well, just tell me more about, for me, just tell me more about Logan. Tell me what he was like. So ask them to talk about them, because the person who's grieving is one of their biggest fears, or from my perspective, one of my biggest fears was that someone would forget Logan. Like his 19 years on this earth would be gone in no time, because people just live their life. And that's what I noticed was, like, while I was continuing to drown, people just continued to do business as usual. It didn't take long for people to go back to their normal lives. But there was no going back to my normal life. Right. So my biggest fear was, like, people would forget about my loved one. And so ask about them. Ask them to talk about them. You sit in the uncomfortable. Be comfortable in the uncomfortable, because it's not you that's grieving. It is your loved one. Or if it's you, then feel free to speak of your loved one.
Yeah, I love that. So great. Oh my gosh, this has been so fun. There's so much more. We could go on for hours. I'm thinking, before we talk about how people can connect with you and in your program that's coming up, that I think is going to be a huge gift for people using RIM, right? And going through your process. Let's talk about that. And then you can give sort of a closing sound bite for people to take with them. How about that?
Okay, sure. Sounds great. So the 8-week program is called Stepping Stones from Grief to Belief. And it's really for those who are going through their sudden and unexpected loss over the first year. Well, I would say probably around the first year, but it's not limited to. But if you haven't done any grief work and you're stuck in the muck, you're stuck in that quicksand, then this program is meant for you. Because the program has 8 weeks. There's 3 RIM sessions, lengthy RIM sessions. And each of the weeks we talk about how people show up, some tools and resources. We give you a tool each week. It could be breathing, could be writing, and then we talk about the reasons why they're so important. So it's really about a dialogue. So it's a sacred circle. It will be 10 people per group, per circle. And those 10 people will be the only 10 people for the 10 weeks. It will be a very safe community, so where you can share safely. And so it's a support group, a virtual support group with healing modalities included. So the circle itself is a healing modality in a sense.
Yeah.
And the added energy healing tools that I'll be using will be included in that. So it's different. It's a different technique than what most people use. So
I
I'm
love
really
it.
excited about it. This starts August 11th, and the
Okay.
marketing material will be coming out shortly for that.
Okay, so anyone who's listening to this, please share this with anyone that you know who has experienced sudden loss of a person. And if you, it doesn't matter where you live. So if you know someone in New York or in California or in Hawaii, or probably even overseas, that this is worth sharing, because I know this modality, what you're offering is worth a lot. And it's going to be a really amazing opportunity to work with you and get some healing.
And the price is $397 for 8 weeks. A RIM session, one session is almost that. So,
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
you get 8 weeks of an amazing process that you just cannot pass up. So,
Okay,
hi,
that's
Larry.
No, yes, Larry's
Larry's
hello. Yeah, I love it. So, so they can reach out to you.
Yes.
Message you on Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, any social media outlet, Twitter. Well, not any, because I'm not on TikTok, but and my website has it all. Again, the letter L means love, Logan, laughter. So that's why it's L. So it's Cathleen, my first name, with the letter L.com.
Okay.
And you find it all right there. And you can find the book that I just, best-selling author book, Women Who Rise, is in that as well.
We didn't even talk about that. Yes. So she's already in a book. There's her Kathleen's story plus all of her contact information. And thank you so much for sharing this. What is that tidbit you want to give people to take with them to know right now in this moment?
In this moment, forgive yourself, connect inwardly, and know that you're not alone. Those are the 3 tips. Know that you're not alone. There are many of us out there, and that you can move through the grief and find an amazing, joy-filled, light, connected, compassionate life. I promise you. If you're willing to step into it 1 hour at a time, just 1 hour at a time, commit to yourself 1 hour at a time.
I love that. Yay. Thank you, Kathleen,
Thank you, Macy.
for sharing this. And please, everyone who's watching this, share it too, because we want to get this resource out to as many people as possible. So thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you soon. Bye.